First of all, welcome Rotarians and guests to the Rochester Rotary January 12th meeting. My name is Ron Lichten. I serve as your club president. Would you all please stand and join me in Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, will you all please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do? Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? It's my pleasure. We have a couple in our club that do awesome work, and sometimes it's like, man, where do you guys get the time? I'm going to have Linda Eastman give our invocation today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please pray with me.
Yes.
Dear God, we come to you today asking for help and blessing as we enter a new year. Please give us the strength and courage to sow peace among our fellow countrymen, and let us be instruments of that peace as you would have us do. Please look upon the people that are suffering with COVID and bring healing to every single one of them. And also we ask that you have compassion and a special blessing on people that are struggling with mental health problems right now as an adjunct to COVID and in general.
Yes.
Please bless all of our doings, all of our deeds that we do to help other people, and help us to keep service above self in our hearts. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Jeff Whitby here today?
Yes,
I thought I heard his voice.
he's muted.
Jeff, how about introducing our guest?
He's muted. And he's on his phone, so John has to unmute him, I think.
I can't make him unmute. I can only prompt him.
Oh, that's weird.
Prompt him.
I did. There he goes.
All right, Jeff, you're on.
Am I on?
You're on.
Wasn't paying attention.
Calling Jeff.
I had to grab. What do you want me to do?
Introduce our guest.
No idea. I haven't seen him. Who's let's see. Is he in the chat? And Kyle's doing the secretary thing, so Kyle should be doing the
Okay, Kyle, can you tell us who we have as far as anybody new?
From what I can see, I don't think we have any guests today. And if I'm wrong, then please speak up and introduce yourself.
Oh, we have all of our famous members here. That's what's going on. 15th sign-in, Al Jones. No fees or fines today. Do we have any happy bucks? No, Phil Noman, you weren't the 15th, so forget it. Any happy bucks today? Someone can speak up if they want.
Well, I'm going to say a happy buck for Jay because he's basically driving me crazy. Our building project has started in earnest after 2.5 years after we bought the property. And we are thrilled, and Jay is especially thrilled that there's some action going on over there. So that's my happy buck.
Anybody else?
I have the happy buck for Kathy Lazinski, just putting me in touch with someone in her organization. Thank you very much.
Awesome. I'll definitely say a happy buck because I had an absolute great time up in Traverse City and Petoskey and Leland and the whole area up there. Anybody else want to speak up? Christine, don't you have something to say about your grandkids?
They're great. They're not great grandkids. They're grand. But they're great.
That's a weird subject. I got a granddaughter that's married 2 years now. It's like she has a kid. I'm a great grandfather. And what's even weirder, it would make my son a grandfather. That just don't compute. All right, moving on. Remember birthdays. We got one. Is Steve Ayler here today? Well, you know what? Let's sing happy birthday to him anyway.
He should be here.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Steve. Happy birthday to you.
$5.
Oh yeah, $5, please. Hey, Steve, is that 48 or 49? Have you hit 50 yet?
Getting close, getting close.
Okay.
Yesterday we celebrated my twins' 40th birthday, and we sang happy birthday. And I said $5, please, at the end.
I love it.
Club anniversary, we got one. Marty Pavlik, 7 years. Congratulations, Marty. Rotarian of the Week. Last week, it was Stu Signer gave it to Ray Dorr. So Ray Dorr, do you have anybody you have in mind? You're muted, Ray. Ray, you're muted. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. Well, we have lots of folks that deserve a lot of recognition. I think John Somerville has kind of been helping us make things happen in this particularly challenging time. So I nominate or give the award to John Somerville.
All right. Aren't you impressed you got that award?
Thanks, Ray.
You're welcome. $5, please.
Okay. Club announcements. We lost a couple of people in the last couple of weeks. Roger was one of them, and Rhonda. To me, it's like I was really disappointed when I heard Rhonda was leaving us. I know she's living out of state, but she's done a lot for our club and for the stinking Rotary International as far as that goes. I know she was out of country many times on her own dime supporting Rotary. Moving on. Sheriff, Mr. Peter.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Excuse me. So you said Roger. Are you talking Roger Bird or Roger Hitchcock?
Hitchcock.
Oh, he resigned?
Yep.
Well, he's been here for a number of years.
He sure has. Roger's another one, been around for a long time and done a lot for the club. So again, moving in, and again, I was bummed to hear, especially both of them. They were good people for our club. Moving on, Sheriff Peter Stuhlreier.
All right, yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I missed the last couple of meetings. So I'll levy the first fine on myself, Vince, if you're still collecting them. So I'll take $5 for that right there. And it was funny this morning when I got the call from Steve, in this political environment and news cycle, where I get in a lot of trouble for being too political, he asked me to be sheriff today. But on that note, it's going to give me a chance to show my maturity and my restraint during these fines. So let me start with this. Hey, Phil, roll Tide, baby.
Hey, that's not.
What happened to your team?
Hey,
that's $5.
I won't accept that. No.
Anybody that was an Ohio State fan for that game, it's another $2. And by the way, a lot of you don't realize that Cincinnati, by the way, was undefeated all season long. The Bearcats, that's right, that little tiny school in Ohio with 50,000 students was undefeated until the last 3 seconds of the Chick-fil-A Bowl, and then lost the last game in the last 3 seconds. So if you are a Chick-fil-A fan, that's going to be $2. If you're a Cincinnati fan, which I know almost nobody here is, that's only $1. Let's see, it's National Pharmacist Day, so anybody that's not a pharmacist, that's $2. It's Kiss a Ginger Day. It's a really weird one for me. I don't know what exactly that means, but I think it has something to do with red hair. So if you've ever kissed a red-haired person, that's $2. And if you've ever kissed an Irish setter, that's $3. It should be higher for the Irish setter. It's also National Pizza Week. So if you're having pizza today, that's going to be $1. If you had pizza in the last 14 days, that's $2. And if your company is getting another PPP, that's $5, because now we know you can afford it. Strange times, as we know. If you've ever eaten in a plastic igloo to go out to dinner or to lunch, that's a $2 fine. If over the last couple of months you've eaten in a restaurant wearing hat and gloves because you were outside in the cold, that's $5. It is also National CBD Month, by the way. By now, everybody knows what that is. If you use a CBD cream and you have some on your body right now, that's a $2 fine. If you own a jar of CBD gummy bears or any other kind of gummy creature that goes with worms, bears, whatever, that's $3 fine. And let's cover everybody else up with the fines to make sure we keep up for the Treasury. So if your birth month, this is a thinking one, so listen up. Your birth month, if your birth month ends in a Y or an R, it's a $4 fine. If it ends in an H or an E, $5. And you lucky people from April, that is a $6 fine. Are you thinking about that one, Phil? I see you scratching your head.
Yeah. Mine is in April. Darn.
Oh, you got the $6 and the $5. You are going broke today. Good for us.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Fill out your fines in the chat line.
It's funny, you were talking about the CBD oil up in Traverse City, in about a 1.5 mile rate or section on their highway there. We passed 5 marijuana places. I couldn't believe it. Mr. Tim Duncan, you want to introduce our speaker today?
Sure, I can do that. Good afternoon, Rotarians. Today it is my pleasure to introduce Julianne Morian. Most of us know her. Julianne is the library director at the Rochester Hills Public Library. She is a proud graduate of the University of Michigan, where she completed her undergraduate and advanced degree in information science. Her specializations include user interface design, usability, and data-driven management. Prior to being named the 10th head librarian at the Rochester Hills Public Library, Julianne served as the associate director and head of user experience at the Clinton Macomb Public Library. Julianne has served in the library profession for over 15 years and regularly delivers professional training and presentations on contemporary librarianship at the state and national level. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Julianne Morian.
Hello. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get going with my PowerPoint. Thank you for welcoming me here today. Today's presentation is going to be a little bit of a retrospective of where we've come in 2020. It's been a challenging year. It's been a tough one to be a new time director in this very roller coaster oriented year. And I'm going to give you a little tease of what's to come in 2021. So without further ado, let's get going. 2020 year in review. Let me move this over. We had a step in service this past year. We were still able to do it. We conducted it strictly on Zoom. And what I started with is the idea that the only constant in life is change. We all share a connection with Christine Haig. She has been, you know, an amazing director of this facility for quite some time. She retired in December of 2019, and I came on board in that same month. I really look at 2020, the January 2020, as sort of my true start when I got my footing, though. So the other thing that's, I think, worth noting is the fact that in 2020, we also welcomed a completely new community relations team. This is the department that's in charge of marketing and communication. And that proved to be very critical later in the year when critical information was communicated to the community at large. As such, some of the first things we did in 2020 was updated the look and feel of our quarterly newsletter, the News and Views. So we were excited that it had sort of this fresh rebranding and a very professional sort of graphic design artist and marketing eye applied to it. There were also updates that we made to our social channels. So we hit all of the major social media. You're welcome to follow us on any of those favorite ones. And we had a reinvested or a renewed commitment with video content. So we know that many of you benefit from learning in sort of small package 2-minute videos that help just describe what's going on in the world. And so we really leaned into that with some of our marketing efforts over the past year. Early in 2020, we thought one of the biggest challenges was going to be sort of, you know, restoring our bookmobiles and reinvesting in them with some much needed parts and a little spruce up here and there. So we did do that early on. Unfortunately, our bookmobile were not able to stay on the road as much as we would have liked, but they did get their necessary upgrades. The other thing that we started early in the year was a community survey. So we sent this out to every cardholder who had a valid email address with us. We saw a 16% return rate, which was wonderful, because getting that kind of feedback from the community at large really set us up to succeed and was going to inform the strategic planning process that I knew the board wanted to complete in the 2020 year, and one that I wanted to feel like the community had a say in as well. And then lo and behold, the pandemic hit. In this next slide, what you're seeing here, I'm trying to show you as many images as possible that we captured over the last year. What I'm highlighting here on the left is actually the resourcefulness of our librarians. So in that very first week where nobody knew up from down and everybody felt like the ground had shifted from beneath them, no one really understood the magnitude of how this virus was spread and whatnot. So one of the first things we did is actually decide to just pull our puppets off of the floor. So we have puppets here in the library that we allow our young people to play with, to tell stories with. They're allowed to check them out and enjoy them at home. So we quickly pulled them off of the floor, and I snapped this picture because I think it shows how our librarians quickly pivoted in that first week and said, all right, well, they can't play with puppets, but they can make puppets. So what you can see here is all the kids who made a puppet and were able to play in sort of that makeshift way. On the right-hand side, what you see is, again, in those first few weeks of March, we very quickly had to make the decision, separate from the governor shutting things down, that we just couldn't stay open as a facility. It was just too uncertain and precarious in terms of how this virus was spreading throughout the community at large. So what you see here is people who were lined up for our drive-through services, and having a drive-through window proved to be immensely useful over the past 10 months. So you don't get a whole lot of points for pivoting because everyone had to pivot. I like to say that we are not special in any other way. Every single facility, every business, every organization, Rotary, everybody had to figure out a way to pivot. But what's helpful just to kind of reflect on is how much we grew and gained, and the resilience that was involved in this last year. So these are some of the phrases that became second nature to us, right, in the 2020 timeframe. Shelter in place. So we had to shelter in place for about 2 months as a library entity. We quickly pivoted into telework and equipment distribution. I think it's important to point out that, like many of you, we never stopped working. So even though the vast majority of our staff were not allowed physically to come in the building, we very quickly found projects that they could work on from home, whether it was database cleanup or reviewing patron registrations and just doing things from home as much as possible. I, as the leader, decided to err on the side of over communicating over the last year. So my team got daily emails from me. Some days they were communicating very critical information, and some days they were just more of a check-in and taking people's temperature on how we were feeling as we were sort of navigating the anxiety and stress of everything during the pandemic. Of course, Google Meetings and Zoom became commonplace. I like to point out that we were allowed to have about a dozen building supervisors that were allowed to come into the building, legally allowed to come into the building. They were the ones responsible for keeping our fish alive. If you know our aquarium, you know what I'm talking about, among a variety of other things that were just basic to the building maintenance. Of course, we developed a COVID-19 readiness plan. I participated in a variety of community-led conversations, whether it was through Mayor Barnett or through the city of Rochester, participating in these sort of coming together of strong thinkers trying to think through how we help our community at large navigate this tumultuous path in front of us. It's worth noting too, there's so many cancellations that we all had to just sort of endure over the last year. So Battle of the Books, it's a real popular program for our 5th graders and their parents, our volunteer luncheon, Wine, Wit, and Wisdom, which is one of our friends, our fundraising organizations. Used book sales were canceled, summer reading kickoff, holiday home tour, and Polar Express. All of these were canceled, and we hope to have some sort of manifestation of these things in 2021. But obviously, so much of this just still remains to be seen. Some of the pandemic pride points during shelter in place that I like to highlight is the fact that our team stepped up. I mean, this is the true service above self here, and offered phone reference and assistance, whether it was email or phone, oftentimes from their own cell phones. And I mean, this is a situation where these employees probably were well within their right to ask for reimbursement for utilities or anything they were using from home, but no one did. It was just an amazing stepping up of staff and true giving back to the community that they serve. We provided live tutors, and we continue to do this to this day. It's powered by tutor.com, but it connects young learners and even job seekers who might need to have somebody professionally review their resume or a cover letter or something like that. So these are actual people who are sort of waiting in the wings and ready to have a one-on-one session with anyone who needs it. We added Wi-Fi in our parking lot. So yes, the building was not allowed to be opened through way of an executive order, but we added Wi-Fi to the parking lot so that you could come there, and whether it was just checking your email or downloading a movie and enjoying it at home, you were able to do that. We updated our emergency loan period so that we reduced as many barriers and friction to accessing the library as possible. We improved our website. It got a bit of a refresh, and we invested in putting more content on that as much as possible. And of course, we increased our e-materials. So these are your ebooks and your e-audio and your music and your movies that you can download by about 40%. Some of the specific and very unique things that we did, I'd like to call your attention to, is we printed more than 500 face shields. So these were done actually on our 3D printer that we have as part of our makerspace. And so here you can see in this image, it's the idea of using very fine plastic filament to actually produce the guard that goes around your head, and then you put a sheet of acetate on it. So this is back when PPE was incredibly scarce, and we were all just sort of grasping at ways to make this happen. We actually ended up printing so many of these via our 3D printer. We provided a variety more website tutorials. So when we were faced with the fact that we couldn't invite people into the building and have those one-on-one interactions where we teach people how to use various online resources, we had to get creative and think about how do we push this out in a different way. So again, we benefit now to this day because of this kind of investment. You can go to our website now and browse any one of our bite-sized tutorials, we call them. So they're usually less than 5 minutes long, and they teach you anything from ancestry to book flicks to value line for investors. And this is a very small sort of low stakes thing that we did, but it's worth just noting that, again, your librarians are very committed to keeping your community tight and the fabric in the community woven very well. So this is called Chalk the Walk. So a small group of staff got together, and along with some of their family members actually, and went around to all the beautiful sidewalks and in and around the campus of the library, and just added just really nice sentiments for the community at large. So many of us were getting out of our houses because we were feeling so homebound that it was nice to see these really strong sentiments, like stronger together but 6 feet apart, on the walks around the library. Like many of you who run organizations or work in organizations, we had to prep for physically distanced workspaces. So here's a little bit of the behind the scenes peek at what we did. Of course, preparing to be 6 feet apart. You can see in the middle picture, what we actually did there is a group of our librarians felt particularly skilled when it came to sewing. So we started a sewing brigade of people who could actually make face masks, cloth face masks right there. So you can see those were the sort of final offering that they made available to our 100+ staff members. And the picture over on the right is actually us converting our boardroom into a makeshift supply closet. So all of the cleaning supplies were there for anybody to come and take. So it was a huge enterprise to just get your building back online. Then in June, we were able to reopen at least through drive-through services alone. So this is a behind the scenes look of what it looked like in our circulation workroom. So when you pull through the drive-through, the image on the left is actually what it looks like to man the drive-through window on the flip side. So you can see it's one of our staff members using a very safe method of delivering something to you. It's actually a drawer. So we weren't even passing through the window to keep things as physically distant as possible. What you see too on the right-hand side there is how many holds just exploded in that first month. People were clamoring to get materials from the library. I think it grew by 200%. So this is typically not done, but we had to weave in and around our entire space to accommodate all the people who had requested materials. Thankfully, in July 1st, we were able to open for what's called grab and go operations. This is just the phrase that we've dubbed for this. Grab and go basically prioritized the idea that people could come into the interior of the library. They could pick up holds, they could browse our circulating collection. They could even use a computer for up to 3 hours if they needed to. What we did do is we removed the chairs from any of the tables in an effort to dissuade people from choosing that as that sort of third place, that place away from home where you could stay and linger. As many of you know, there's a lot of questions about ventilation and how the virus might persist just in the air in general. So we weren't trying to keep people in the building for longer than necessary, which is why we did pull the chairs off of the floor. We were able to operate in this mode for about 4 months. As part of it, we were trying to push people as much as possible to our self-check screens. It makes it that much safer for them and for our staff. So we improved our verbiage there. We resumed our bookmobile service. So that was exciting. That got to go back out on the road. Our foot traffic did increase, but we stayed at about 50% of where we were 1 year prior. Our digital downloads, so those are those ebooks and those e-audios, that increased overall by about 20%. And our online resources, which is like our premium content, the things that the databases we pay for and then make available to you for free, that increased by about 25%. And like I mentioned, drive-through services increased by 200% this last year. Some of the changes to the facility involve the plexiglass screens, the sanitizer dispensers. We also have wipe dispensers. And then on the other side, I've got an image of what it looks like to come up to one of our computer stations. We tried to space them out and keep them as independent and free from one another as possible. We are hoping to return to grab and go services in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So if you are so inclined, we hope that you will choose to come back inside of the library as well. So what's next? Right now, since mid-November really, we have pulled back on our services when we were seeing, the community spread of the virus creep up close to about 14% in Oakland County. We did make the determination to pull back on full interior access of the library. So we're in phase 4 right now, which is drive-through only, but also lobby access. So lobby access means you are able to come into the building itself and grab your holds that we have waiting for you. We also have take and make programs, which is the idea of having some sort of skill-based learning from our makerspace usually that promotes learning and lifelong learning in some capacity. We also have book carts that are located there. Those represent items that are for sale from our friends of the library. That's our primary fundraising arm. And of course, so many of their fundraisers have been thwarted this last year. This is just a very small way that you can give back to the friends of the library. I point out too that we are open all of our traditional hours and our librarians are standing by waiting to help you in whatever way they can. They're there for email reference, for phone reference or chats. And basically they're willing to kind of go the extra mile and just help you get whatever materials you need. So looking ahead to 2020, what's on the horizon? The first thing, I would be remiss if I did not point out that the Friends of the Library, the Friends of RHPL, are hosting their first ever large scale, large format raffle. They're hosting a 60/40 raffle. They're doing it in honor of the fact that they are celebrating their 60th anniversary this year. So that's why we came up with the 60/40 combination. Tickets are $100 a piece, and the winner will be announced on March 20th, which is the first day of spring. So we thought we chose a very sort of hopeful time frame to announce the winner there. So get your tickets soon. We are launching what we call an innovative item collection. So innovative items represents this sort of new phase of what libraries are moving into. It's this idea of creating items or circulating items that help you be productive, help you pursue a hobby, or are somehow useful to you. So it's circulating things as opposed to just circulating books or ways to consume stories. Some examples might include things part of a STEM collection, so microscopes or telescopes that families might enjoy together. They might be tool oriented, so it could be something like a radon detector for your home, or an auto health detector if you're a hobbyist and enthusiast of restoring cars. And then there's a variety of just sort of productive things and hobby oriented things like jewelry making kits or soap making kits. So look for those to be coming to our catalog soon that you can put a hold on and help just sort of inspire you to pursue those lifelong learning pursuits. We'll also be launching online meeting room and online study room reservations. You had always been able to reserve both of these spaces prior to this, but what this does is by putting them online, we're allowing people to actually book them well in advance. So the idea is that, you know, today's the 12th, I might want to book something for next week or maybe even 2 weeks from now. You having the ability to plan on having that space ready and waiting for you is a benefit for you. We are hopeful that we are going to be launching a new website by January of 2022. If we can get it out any earlier than that, we will, but we've got a team that's sort of working on that as we speak. We anticipate that 2021 will be focused on enhanced collection development, which just means making really data-based, data-driven decisions about the things that we add to our collection so that it's very reflective of what you as a community member want to enjoy, and then also improving our wayfinding. In the way of capital projects, we have heard from the community. We know that our bathrooms are in need of a little bit of a refresh. So we will be updating our bathrooms. Part of this is because we did receive some CARES funding that help us go touchless in a variety of really strategic ways that will only benefit us from a COVID perspective, but also are reflective of just some much needed updates that we need to do there. And lastly, a new strategic plan. So if you remember, when I started this presentation, I talked about how we did a community survey with the grand hopes of launching a strategic plan. We still completed a strategic plan. The board has not completely codified it, so I'm giving you a little sneak peek, but I want to share with you that we are in the final stages of approving it. The strategic plan will culminate in 2024, which is our centennial year. We'll be celebrating 100 years of being a library for this community in 2024, so I'm very excited for that. I like to point out that this is a dynamic plan. By dynamic, I'm saying it's not just going to sit on a shelf. It's one of those things that we were revisiting all the time and making sure that we are adhering to the roadmap, but that we're also updating the plan if it needs revision. There's 3 parts to the strategic plan. There's board priorities. So these are these bold aspirational goals. There's director goals, and then there's manager action plan. So all 3 of these things had a sort of way of being rolled out as part of this plan, and they're entwined together. And so there's really good buy-in from staff, and it reflects well of what the board wants us to be doing as well. They follow the format of SMART goals. So for those of you in business, you probably have heard of this. SMART goals stand for specific, measurable, aspirational, but attainable, relevant, and time-based. So again, it's us trying to commit to holding ourselves accountable to these various goals and checking in with ourselves on a regular basis to make sure that we're adhering to our strategic plan. So let me go ahead and share with you that sneak peek of the strategic plan. So these represent the populations we serve, ranging from early learners to small and independent businesses to researchers and hobbyists. Here are those 3 parts of the strategic plan that I mentioned. Purpose refers to those goals that our board set. Vision reflect those things that I have set as the director. And then the focus represents what our frontline staff have sort of offered up as the way to execute these various goals. So our purpose that the board has identified is these 5 things. Inspire lifelong learners, that's sort of an anchor goal that almost all libraries have. Nurture developing minds, advocate critical thinking, foster community collaboration, and provide welcoming space for enjoyment and discovery. And so what you're going to see now, I'm not going to read through all of this for you, but what you can see is we've tied together the purpose, which is the bold aspirational mission up at the top, And then those bulleted points represent the vision that I have put forth for our team. And what you're not seeing, it's captured in a different document, is the action plan that our team has then committed to and pledged to carry out. So this Inspire Lifelong Learners ranges from, the simple things of motivating reading, listening, and viewing opportunities to formal skill building and things like that. The next one is nurturing developing minds. And this ranges anything from sort of our young people and the young people that we serve and their caregivers, but also people who we want to bring into an inclusive environment, perhaps people dealing with developmental differences that we can also look to in terms of nurturing their developing minds as well. Advocate for critical thinking. This past week with everything that's happened at the Capitol, it's really shined a light on just what is information that is trustworthy? How do you decipher information that's trustworthy? So our board is a strong proponent of facilitating deep thinking and articulation of ideas, helping people decipher what is good and trustworthy information based on currency and accuracy, authority, reliability, and purpose. So you're going to see a lot more programs that center in and around critical thinking and how we step up and increase our critical thinking skills. Foster community collaboration. You know this, we are really strong advocates for the community at large. We have a strong legacy of working well with other partners in the community, and so I know you will see that continue. Cultivating partnerships, promoting convenient access to the library, meeting people where they are, creating mutual beneficial volunteer opportunities for individual members of the community. And finally, our last one, providing a welcoming space for enjoyment and discovery. And so this one in part speaks to the building, providing sufficient space to study and be productive in their work. But we're choosing to define space in a larger sense too, and think about it as our online space. Whether it's creating inclusive website design and accessible website designs, and just this idea of having these touch points for unexpected delight as well. This brings me to the end of my presentation. So at this point, I can stop sharing and take any questions if you've got them. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you some information about the library.
I'd like to ask a question if I could. This is Dave Archbold.
Yes.
So certainly COVID-19 has been a very troubling year last year, and now we're into this year, and it's been a real negative experience overall. But what have you found something that the library can either do or do better because of the COVID crisis?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, it's one of those things where our managers have discussed this quite frequently. The idea of, have we created a different kind of patron because of this last year? Have we introduced people to new experiences and, dare I say, better ways of experiencing the library? Before now, what we were typically looking at is about 20% of our cardholders were choosing to explicitly read something as an ebook or an e-audio. What I'm curious to see is how those numbers are going to change in 2021, and have we actually created more people who like reading an ebook or an e-audio because they had never been exposed to it before, and now they like it. Self-check is another great example. The library has had a long tradition of offering self-checks, but it was never really required. So people could choose whether they wanted to use a self-check to check out their materials or whether they wanted to check out with a person. We might see, as on the flip side of this, that more people feel more and more comfortable using the library in a sort of self-directed, independent way. The last one I'll point out is drive-through. So it was interesting for us because, again, the library has a long legacy of offering drive-through services, but there were a fair amount of customers who had never really partook in that experience before. Knowing that it grew to 200%, we firmly believe that a lot of people will take advantage of what the drive-through offers in the months and years to come.
Great, thank you.
He's on his way there.
If there's no other questions, I'm happy to throw it back. But thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the library. It's near and dear to my heart. And again, this was a hard year for me, but I feel so completely invested in this library now. It was like we hit fast forward on me feeling like a leader here. So thank you to an amazing foundation that Christine has left for me to inherit. And I'm just so appreciative to be at the helm of this fantastic organization.
Linda, did you get your question answered?
No, I wanted to ask Julian, there was a term that I hadn't heard before on your PowerPoint, wayfinding. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so that is actually the architects among us here probably could answer this even a little bit better. This is the idea of having the right signage and the right visual cues to help you as a patron navigate the space and find what you need without extra assistance. So we have a variety of ways that you can experience the library completely unto yourself, where you don't need to have somebody else. We are more than happy to help you if you need it, but empowering people to do it on their own, to me, just creates more opportunity for you to find what you need.
Thanks. Great. Shirley Go Frank wants to ask something.
Oh, great. Sorry, I missed these.
That's okay. Where can we buy the tickets for the Friends raffle? Is it on your website?
Yes, we have a link to the Friends. So we host pretty much the Friends Gateway on our website. So if you go to www.rhpl.org, it's our acronym, there is a link, a drop down to Friends, and they would gladly get you a ticket.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Julianne, we also had a comment from Ray Dorr. He says, thank you, a great example, accepting the challenge, being creative to find new ways to serve your customers and our community. Great job.
Thank you.
Any other comments that we have? Any questions for Julianne? Well, it's been another great day in Rochester Hills. Everybody, have a great week, the rest of the week, and safe week. You take care, and I'll see you next week.